that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and Tom Fennell, the famous philanthropist.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
In the flesh.
Every day I get up at a ridiculously early hour. Today I got up at about, 5 minutes to 4.
Well, it's late.
It's not too bad for me. Anyway, I get up at ridiculous hours, and I go to the internet and find out what's going on with energy and climate change news. And today I looked at about, I think, close to 400 articles. I just look at the headlines, and most of them...
You scan them.
Most of them, I see that they're articles about the stock prices for companies that are in renewable energy or something, and I just go by them really fast. But I find articles that are interesting, and every time I do, I write a synopsis of the article, or I put together a synopsis, which, if I'm lucky, is just going to be the first paragraph of the article. And then I put a link with it, put it I put 10 to 15 of these together with some pictures and whatnot, pictures that are usually used here on the program, and put them up at the blog geoharvey.com. Believe it or not, I forgot my own name. And you can go to geoharvey.com and see the news items that we're talking about. Tom and I talk about 20 or 21 of them every week, and we record on
the best of the blog.
The best of the blog. We record on Thursday mornings, so we start from the previous Thursday morning, because Tom's got to know what we're going to be talking about, and the only way to do that is to have him get his information the day before. So that's why things are so delayed.
Well, as I usually say about this time, some of these articles are very interesting and in-depth, and some of them could take our whole show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
this first one could take more than one show.
And call the people's attention to some of the better ones, but sometimes I skip it. But
yep. And
go on to where do we go to find the link?
geoharvey.com.
geoharvey.com.
And if you,
and it's by date, right?
It's by date. We will try to keep you apprised of the date of the date. The date that's given is not the date the article appeared. It's the date that it appeared at the blog, and it could have been from the previous day or even the day or 2 days before that. Occasionally, I come across an article that I didn't see for a long time and wasn't really given widespread news, and so occasionally there's an article there that's as much as a week old.
Well, some of them are well worth looking up, and you can spend a lot of time on them. Some of them are very in-depth.
Absolutely. Many of them I wish I could read with more attention than I have. Although once in a while I come across an article that is really good, and I write up an article on the same subject for Green Energy Times. There was one this week about Washington, D.C., and it's an article that we reported before, I believe, and I think last week. And then I didn't like the original article, and I wanted to get it into Green Energy Times, so I contacted the people that the article was about, and then wrote my own article, which is about Washington, D.C. being a LEED Platinum city. And
I remember talking about that.
Yeah, the stuff that they did down there. They've got 3 LEED Platinum public schools in Washington.
They're ahead of the curve, aren't they?
58% of the population that commutes either uses public transportation, bicycles, or walks. 58%.
And they have a subway.
They've got a really nice subway system, which I hated when I first got there because it was so computerized. But anyway, you had to tell them. Not only, it wasn't like the subways that I grew up with, where you pop into the and you want to go on the A train, so you put 10 cents in the stile and off you go. This is, you got to tell them where you're going.
Oh, cool.
And then they bill you according to that, and it
Yeah.
goes on your ticket, and you have to buy the ticket, and you can get a bunch of these things on the ticket, and you can put money on it, take money off. It's just, forget it. It's too crazy. And, here I am, an old man whose background has
You know
is
that
in
dime is now
computers.
almost $3 in New York City?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. with-
285, I think it
Yeah,
is.
you have a dime, it's probably $3 worth of silver. Okay, should we get going?
Yeah, might as well. Can't
Let's-
walk, can't dance.
Let's do it. Okay, our first item is from the New York Times, and we have a picture for this, don't we, Tom?
Yeah, we do. Let's get that. Let's try and get that
Yeah,
picture up.
let's do that.
Here we go. By Jove, I think he's called it.
There you go.
There we go.
What's the title?
Harrowing storms may move climate debate, if not GOP leaders.
For years, climate change activists have faced a dilemma: how to persuade people to care about a grave but seemingly far-off problem and win their support for policies that might cost them in their utility bills and at the pump. Now people can see the problem for themselves, and there it is.
That's
You
what
know,
this article's about.
Put the picture back up, and here's a sailboat. Where's the beach?
Nowhere near that, that's for sure.
This is what happens when you get 50 inches of rain or something like that. Things.
Georgia does have a seacoast.
It does indeed.
But it's not visible in that picture.
No, it's not. I mean, it might be behind the photographer, but this is a we had an energy committee thing before the select board here in Brattleboro.
Yeah.
And I'm on the energy committee, so I was there at the select board, and at some point in there, I just started spouting. And I think
You had a bully pulpit.
yeah, I think Tim Wessel thought that I was, or maybe all the people on the select board thought that I was spouting at them, but really I was just spouting, and it was about, I talked about the damage that is being done now in Vermont by climate change.
Yeah, it's real.
It's real, and people don't realize the thing that
There's
limits
wildlife and trees that's suffering the most
Yeah.
so far.
Absolutely. People don't realize that the thing that keeps the pests, the diseases, the fungi that attack maple trees, the whatever, out of Vermont has always been that temperature of that coldest night of the winter.
Yeah, and the
And
maple
that-
trees are visibly suffering around here.
That temperature has gone up 10 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 35 years.
So it's not the coldest temperature during the day; it's the coldest temperature at night.
And the deer ticks, Lyme disease,
Yeah.
it's propelled by this.
They're surviving.
Yeah, and we've almost everything is under attack except for oaks and hickories. So our Agency of Natural Resources says we're going to have brown fall colors, and of course the maple.
It's happening already. I noticed that already.
Yeah, the maple industry is suffering. The skiing industry is suffering. Everybody who is dependent on agriculture what they're saying is even the dairy industry is going to suffer in Vermont because they have to get to different breeds of cattle. The cattle that they use are not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to deal, and of course that's still
That's
probably
in the future, but
a few
I
decades
never even
away.
thought of that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're going to have to get
If
rid
we-
of black and white cows and put brown cows in the
No
field.
more Oreo cookie cows. And if you think if you've never seen one, you can go to Wikipedia
Yeah.
and put in Oreo cookie cow or something to that effect. And if you experiment, if you don't get it the first time, experiment. But you put in Oreo cookie cow, and there's a breed
picture.
a breed of cow, and when you'll see it, you'll see why it's. The one I mean. It's got the shoulders and the head are black. The back end is black, and in the middle, about yay wide, is this white band
Oh yeah,
that goes around.
yeah. I've seen. Yeah, I know
Funny.
the cow. There's some of them on Route 30.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The ones I love, though, the cows I love.
Belted. They're belted something or others.
Something like
Yeah.
that. The one that I really love is the Highland cow.
The little guys.
The guys, we had Highlands where I lived in Massachusetts that were like huge.
Okay, so it's a
Really,
variation.
Some of them,
Some
but
of
they
them
have
small.
most of the ones I've seen are small, but they are so shaggy.
Yeah,
And they have wonderful dispositions as long as you don't get between the mother and the calf.
And the cow.
You
Calf,
don't want to do that.
Don't, huh?
No.
Probably it's not a good idea with bears either.
I'm not sure which it's worse with. But anyway, the GOP leaders, they were put in office with campaigns that were financed indirectly from the fossil fuels industry, and they are beholden to the fossil fuels industry.
Absolutely.
And they are keeping the Republican Party stuck on the fossil fuels industry. And when people realize what's going on, the conservative movement in the United States is going to be suffering, because it's going to be really clear to more and more people that they are simply lying about what may be the most important issue in modern times.
Well, the fossil fuel industry is now a zombie, but it doesn't know it.
Yeah.
It's dead already, but it doesn't know it.
Well,
it's going to take probably a couple of generations to really die. But economics is what's going to kill it.
I don't think it's going to take a couple of generations.
It may be
I think
less
the
than
fossil
that.
fuels industry is going to be
But it's going to be economics. It's not going to
barely
be
alive.
green changes, or
well.
they'll contribute to it. But
Yeah.
basically, the economics aren't going to be there anymore.
Yep.
They're
Well, I
almost
suppose
not there now.
We've gone for 10 minutes, and, and we've talked about one of 20 items.
Well, we were talking about trees, so let's talk about some more trees.
Yeah, this is sad. This is from the Columbian. That last one, by the way, is from the New York Times.
New York Times, yeah. The future of the oldest tree species on Earth is in peril.
This is not the oldest species. This is the species with the oldest individual trees.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. But this is what it said, and I didn't.
I know
didn't
it's a bad title,
I
but
didn't
that's
pick
okay.
it.
The
But
bristlecone
you're right.
pine tree, famous for its wind-beaten, gnarly limbs and having the longest lifespan on Earth, is losing a race to the top of the mountains through the western United States, putting future generations in peril, according to researchers. Climate change is warming its territory, giving a competitive edge to another somewhat related species.
Yes, it's a cousin.
And the same thing's happening in Vermont. The ridgetop habitats in Vermont are all
changing. Yep.
changing as deciduous trees move up them. And the anti-wind people want to preserve those habitats, and the Agency of Natural Resources says you can't preserve them.
The habitats are dying.
They're dying, and the people at the Agency of Natural Resources want to put up refugia.
A what?
Refugia. A refugium is a place where you set it up so that there's no mixing of species. For example, in a fish tank, you could be growing Daphnia, which are tiny little crustaceans to feed to the goldfish.
Yeah.
And you could have one part of the tank screened off so the goldfish can't get into it.
Okay, and the Daphnia can get through the screens.
Well, the Daphnia live inside.
Yeah.
If they're tiny, they could get through the screen, but they live inside, and you scoop a few of them out to give the goldfish once in a while. They're not very bright.
This is an interesting tree.
Yeah, it is.
Look it up on the web. It can live 5,000 years.
Yes.
It's the oldest individually growing organism on the planet.
Yes. Although I think there may be one that's older. There's a desert organism in the southwestern United
Well, this
States.
article said it was this
I
one.
know.
And the pictures of the trees, they all look like they're dead.
Yeah, they do. Except
And they're not.
They're not dead. And you see a few little
Few pine needles here and there on a dead tree.
Yeah.
And
But they
the
just
tree's
survive.
a couple thousand years old.
Yeah, they just survive. Okay.
Well,
we should probably move on to an article from Inside Science News Service, and we've got
we
a
got a picture here.
And this
Pull
one.
the picture up.
Yep.
And the headline is, will Hurricane Harvey launch a new kind of climate lawsuit?
Yeah,
this is interesting. This is a very interesting concept.
It's an interesting concept. Scientists can now link acts of God to climate change. Researchers are getting good at determining how much humans have weighted the dice. The field of extreme event attribution could give victims the power to hold somebody accountable, say lawyers. Now, just so
wait till the lawyers get a hold of this one.
Oh, yeah. So people understand We know how much warmer the water is in the Gulf of Mexico.
That's been measured.
We know how much warmer the air is.
That's also been measured.
The water, when it's warmer, will evaporate more easily.
Yep.
And the air that's warmer will
Will
hold
hold
more
more.
water.
Yep.
So you get this situation where you have like the Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria right now is hitting the Caribbean islands, and the no-name storm that hit Louisiana last year, where you're dumping huge amounts of water. And Hurricane Harvey dumped over 50 inches in some parts of Texas.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And the majority of the properties that were flooded
Yeah.
are not in flood zones.
Right, so they can't even get flood insurance.
No, they could get flood insurance. It's easy to get flood insurance if your house can't flood. but they can't effectively get, they don't think about it for one thing. And
Yeah.
but what it means is they can say this amount of water out of what was dropped, this percentage was because of climate change. And they can actually
So there's
provide
your,
a measurement.
There's your link right there.
There's your link. And that means that some houses can say, we were flooded out, and 100% of the reason why that flood happened
Is because.
is because of climate change. And by the way, ExxonMobil, Chevron, Koch Industries, you name it, we want you to pay for our losses because this is your fault.
Well, there's logic behind that. There really is.
Yeah, the
I
other
mean,
thing
they profited, you know.
they did. The
They
other thing, of
externalized
course,
their
is
costs.
yes. The other thing is ordinary drivers are putting carbon dioxide into the air, people who heat their homes with oil. But the difference is the people at ExxonMobil knew
Right.
that climate change was coming,
And we know
and
they
they
knew.
denied it.
We know they knew.
So we should move on.
Yes.
It is up to Friday, September 15th, and we have an item from independent.ie. IE is Ireland.
Yes, it is. Donald Trump says hurricanes have not changed his mind about climate change.
Donald Trump has indicated that hurricanes Irma and Harvey have not changed his view on climate change. When a reporter asked for his thoughts on the hurricanes and climate change, he said, quote, "We've had bigger storms than this," end quote. Of course, earlier he had said of Hurricane Harvey, there's, quote, "there's probably never been anything like this,"
Well,
end quote.
he's playing games because they asked him about climate change. And he quickly started talking about 1910.
You know, this guy, he's fed a line by somebody and he remembers it because he's got a good memory.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he doesn't process information well, I don't think. And he,
So he's sort of like a ventriloquist dummy.
maybe, but he, you know, there's a person who's extremely dull and has a low IQ who might be a very pleasant person whose thinking is actually kind of good. But there's also such a thing as a person who's very bright and has a high IQ who doesn't get it right. And that person has a name, and the name is Fool.
Huh. Okay. Let's move along.
I will deny ever allowing myself to be called a fool, but I was.
Yeah, we
for
got
most
another-
of my
we got
life.
another
Oh,
image here.
I've said it. Yeah, we've got another image. This comes from Clean Technica.
What's in the background of that image?
Well, those are trees, and
I thought it might
there's
have
a
been
lot of
trees.
haze. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the image is enlarged sufficiently and
I wasn't
is made
sure if they were
clear.
trees or they were
Yeah, I
wind
looked.
turbines.
I was wondering about that myself, and I actually looked at it carefully. So, what do you got for a title, Tom?
Is the oil industry threatened by more than electrical vehicles?
Yeah. Execs at a number of fossil fuel companies have suggested that even after demand for oil and natural gas peaks, demand for petrochemical feedstocks, for plastics, fertilizers, and other chemicals will stay strong. But plastics pose a serious problem of their own, and it has to be addressed.
Well, this is a big problem that we're just looking the other way, avoiding thinking about it.
Yeah.
Plastics don't biodegrade. They
Most
just
of them
break
don't.
down into smaller and smaller pieces.
Yeah. There is some hope on these things, by the way. There are, you know, you think about styrofoam, and styrofoam lasts forever, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out that, and we actually had this on the show. You might remember it. It was a long time ago. Mealworms, which you put out flour and you're going to get mealworms. Mealworms have in their guts bacteria. Normally, these are natural bacteria. They're not GMOs or anything. That can decompose styrene.
Is that so?
And the worms can actually eat the
Eat
styrofoam.
styrene.
And so I've seen pictures of styrofoam that had holes just running all through it with these worms and so forth. So
Interesting.
and there's other worms that will attack other kinds of plastic.
The big problem right now with the plastic is the disposable plastic bags.
Oh,
They're
it's-
getting.
it's a disaster.
It is.
It is, and
I mean, there's collections of plastics hanging around in the ocean as big as the state of Texas.
yeah.
Wow.
It's horrible, and the birds don't realize that they're eating plastics, and they eat the plastics. They can't digest them, they can't pass them, and so they wind up dying of starvation because they can't eat anymore.
This article has two things. At the current rate of increase, the world's oceans will be home to more plastic by weight than fish by 2050.
It's not that far off.
No. And microplastic fibers are now found in about 94% of U.S. tap water.
94%.
I don't even know how it's getting there.
Filter your water.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's move along.
Renew
Another
economy.
picture here.
Renew economy. No, I think the picture is for the one after. This is Drax.
This is Renew Economy. Drax, yes.
Yeah. The picture's for the one after.
Is it really?
I believe so. The picture.
No, the next one has a picture too.
Oh, there's a picture for the
There's
Drax.
a picture for the Drax.
I don't have it.
I'm wrong. There was a picture in the article,
Oh,
but
okay.
you didn't pull it up.
No, I didn't.
Look ashamed.
What can I say?
It's a horrible picture of a British town
Oh,
with a whole bunch of cooling towers
yes.
in it.
I was going to put that in, and
No, I
was a-
normally mark your pictures.
Yeah.
And this one isn't marked, so.
okay. So this is from Renew Economy, and what's the title, Tom?
UK power firm plans the world's largest battery storage project.
Drax, a UK power company, and that I believe everything for Drax is at one site. Announced that it's seeking planning permission to install a 200 megawatt battery on site. If approved and commissioned, the storage facility would be the biggest in the world, dwarfing the 129 megawatt lithium ion battery project that is currently being built in Australia by Tesla and Neoen. How do you pronounce that? Neoen?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Neoen?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't even know what language it is. But this is going to, Drax is a huge, huge, huge place. It's got, I think,
Six
six
generators.
generators. And it's got a whole
Six
bunch
units, and they're all burning coal, but they've stopped
of, they
half
stopped,
of them.
they have
Half of them
switched
have gone to gas or biomass.
Biomass.
And the other half are in the
are
process
moving to gas.
of going to gas.
And the biomass ones are getting their biomass from Georgia.
Are they really?
In the United States,
So
where
it's
they
wood.
are.
Wood pellets.
This is supposed to be waste wood from paper and lumber and so forth. But
I hope so.
They go out and clear cut forests,
Well, that's not good.
and that has actually been documented
Yeah, that's not
by
good.
people who followed the logging trucks.
Yeah.
And the whole thing. They guaranteed people, or promised people, I should say, that this was going to be.
If they're using logging waste, that's great.
Yeah.
If they're cutting down trees, that's not.
Not great. And they're destroying, what is an effective carbon sink in order to produce a lot of pollution and saying that it's cleaner than coal. And I'm not sure that it is.
I'm not sure that it is either, really.
So I think I'm not against biomass if it's done in a way that I think is
I
right.
totally agree. And we've
But
talked
this
about
is
that in
not
detail.
what I think is right. This is what I think is bad news. So should we move
Yeah,
on?
let's move on to Kodiak Island.
Kodiak Island, and I've already put the picture up, so you
Yeah,
can
let's go look at the picture.
stick it
here.
up there. This
This is Kodiak. Pretty place.
Yep, Saturday, September 16th, and this is KTOO has supplied this.
What can Kodiak teach the world about renewable energy?
A lot.
A lot.
Since 2007, Kodiak Island has transformed its grid so that it now generates almost 100% of its power from renewable energy. The electric rates are stable and have actually dropped slightly since the year 2000. It is a model with lessons for remote communities from the Arctic to the equator.
I couldn't open this link.
You couldn't?
No,
Oh my
I
gosh.
managed to bypass it, and I got the article.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But your original link wouldn't work.
I'm going to have to go fix it. This is an interesting article.
It is a good one, yeah.
We've talked about Kodiak Island before. The wind turbines are important for that island for their...
Well, the article says if the wind is blowing, they might account for 80% of the power used at any given moment.
Yeah,
But the real workhorse is in Kodiak's system is hydropower.
right.
They've
Well,
had hydro for a long
they've
time.
had hydro for a long time. That's a huge advantage. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the countries that are going to 100% renewable energy, like, is it Nicaragua that is going to 100? Costa Rica.
I'm not sure
Forgotten
anymore.
which one. I think it may be Costa Rica. But the country has got huge hydro resources, so it's fairly easy for them just to top that off with solar and with wind power. But for Kodiak, they, like any island community, they spent a lot of money buying diesel oil and running diesel generators.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Well, Kodiak's unusual because it can't connect to a grid. It's just too isolated.
Yeah,
So this is their own little microgrid.
yeah.
And they're running it very well.
Yes, they're doing a good job. But you know, as the article points out, there are remote communities all over the place that.
Absolutely.
And in Vermont, you know, Nancy Ray Mallory, who's the editor of Green Energy Times, and you know, we're in constant contact. I work for Green Energy Times a lot. When she put her house in, she wanted to find out how much it would cost to get grid electricity.
It
She
was a lot. I'm sure it
wasn't
was a lot.
inclined to get grid electricity, but she wanted to find out how much it was. And it turned out that it was cheaper for her, and this was a dozen years ago, I think. It was cheaper for her to put in a battery array and a solar array and run the entire house on those. And because grid electricity would have cost $35,000.
In much of Vermont, that's a problem. You see a lovely piece of land, used to be a farm, you want to buy it, and then you call up Green Mountain Power, and they say, well, 15 grand will get you
Yeah,
a pole.
if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. And, you know, most people don't think about the fact, like the house that I used to live in New Hampshire, which is at the top of a mountain, was electrified when Franklin Roosevelt was president.
Yeah, the REA.
Yeah. And people don't think about the fact that the government did a lot of this stuff of moving.
So the infrastructure was provided by the government, not by you as a household.
That's right.
Right.
And if it had been us as
It
a
wouldn't have
household,
happened.
it would not have happened. And I've known other people who live in Vermont and New Hampshire who don't have power from the
For
grid.
the very same reason.
Same reason. Okay, we should move on. We're being slow today. Our next item is from Clean Technica.
Hurricane Harvey was a once in 25,000 year storm.
No relation, by the way. Metstat is a company that provides analysis on precipitation and weather event frequency to industries like utility companies that need to know where to put infrastructure so it won't be damaged by extreme weather events. It has now released an analysis of Hurricane Harvey. It found that the storm was a once in 25,000 year event, or it was a 25,000 year storm.
This storm dumped more than 9 trillion gallons of rain in the Houston area. And just so you can visualize that, equal to a cube 2 miles by 2 miles by 2 miles.
There you go.
That's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water. And, you know, how often do we have 1 in 25,000 year events? I mean, if you think about it, this was before the last ice age.
Yeah,
This is
25,000 years ago.
1 in a 25.
More than last
and
week.
you know, the worst of it is Hurricane Harvey was a 1 in 25,000 year event.
Yeah,
2
followed
weeks,
by 2 more.
2 weeks later, Florida was hit by Irene, which was the worst storm ever to form on measure in the Atlantic Ocean. And I was going to say North Atlantic Ocean, except hurricanes don't form in the South Atlantic, although the first one that on record did in the year 2004. And now, 2 weeks after Irene, or however long it's been, we've got Puerto Rico being hit by the worst storm it's ever had.
It's ever had.
And
The season is far from over.
and the season is far from over. And, Donald Trump says, oh, we've had worse storms than these. Yeah.
Interesting quote from this article.
Yes.
The Miami mayor, who happens to be a Republican, this is the quote: "This is the time to talk about climate change. This is the time that the president and the EPA and whoever makes decisions needs to talk about climate change. If this isn't climate change, I don't know what is. This is truly, truly a poster child for what is to come."
Yes, and
he's right in the middle of it. He knows what he's talking about.
The Republicans, unfortunately, the leadership is still in denial. And when people
Well, as I said earlier, it's an article of faith with these guys.
yeah, and when people realize that they're being lied to by politicians who have been bought into office by people who profit from the fact that people are lying about this, the conservative movement in the United States is going to die. And
It's very well funded, though. So it's going to die slowly.
I don't know how well funded it is. Koch Industries, which funds a lot of this,
Yeah.
was upwards of $100 billion a year in revenues 2 years ago. Today they're not. And when you have a big industry like that and their revenues start falling off rapidly, it doesn't take very much to move them into the red.
But
I
money
don't
is
know that
speech.
those guys are actually making any money.
They may not be. Money is speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not getting very good results on the investment that they made in the last election. So, they may just say, okay, this is not the way to do things. Let's just party from here on in.
Well, this one sort of plays off what we said earlier on about the law, the courts, the lawsuits.
Yes.
Big oil will have to pay up, like big tobacco.
Yeah, this is from CNN. Here is a message to investors in the oil industry, whether pension and insurance or whether pension and insurance funds, university endowments, hedge funds, or other asset managers. Your investments are going to sour. The growing devastation caused by climate change is going to blow a hole in your fossil fuel portfolio. This is CNN.
Yes.
Okay? And CNN is not exactly partisan in this debate, I don't think. Well, maybe people who are on the other side think that it is. I don't know.
Well, they're perceived as being somewhat to the left of center.
Somewhat to the
Yeah.
left.
Not
Well,
very far, but
not
yeah.
very far.
The fossil fuel companies will soon face financial reckoning as courts hold them liable for damages caused by climate change.
Yeah, it
That's
happened-
exactly what we said before.
It happened to tobacco. It's going to happen to fossil fuels. But
Yeah.
when it happens to fossil fuels, it's not going to be those people who chose to smoke. And people, people used to know that smoking was not good for you long before the tobacco industry admitted that was true. This is everybody, though. This is the people who live off grid and bicycle to work are being poisoned by the fossil fuels industry.
Yeah, they can't avoid it.
Can't avoid it. Okay, we're
An
up to
interesting picture coming up here. I like
Sunday.
this picture.
Yeah, Sunday. I like it too. September 17th, and there is the picture.
I'll bring it up here.
There you go. There you go. There he
This
is.
is kind of appealing.
It is.
He's smiling at us.
Yeah, he is. This is from the Weather
That's a whale,
Channel.
isn't it?
That's a beluga.
Beluga whale.
Yeah, this is from the Weather Channel, and it's
Half of Canadian wildlife is declining.
this is appalling. A survey of 903 Canadian vertebrate species spanning over 4 decades has found that half are in serious population decline. Declining species lost a total of 83% of their numbers between 1970 and 2014, according to a report from the World Wildlife Fund. Causes include pollution, climate change, habitat loss, and invasive species. And all of those can be attributed to, at least in large degree, the fossil fuels industry.
I can't deny it.
Okay, well, I won't make you deny it. But he's a very cute fella, or she's a very cute
I'll
gal.
put him up again, yeah.
Yeah, And we should move on because we're
The
way
breadth
behind
and
schedule.
speed of the decline means action must be taken quickly.
This is from the BBC. Following a meeting of environment ministers, the EU climate commissioner said Trump officials had indicated that the U.S. would either stay in the 2015 accord or review its terms. I would imagine with a view to re-entering. But the White House has insisted it will leave the Paris Climate Accord, and despite reports to the contrary, spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that its position was unchanged.
This is interesting. We're getting mixed messages here.
Yeah, we sure are. And you know, I don't remember, maybe at the end of this show or maybe next week, but you might remember the government of Nicaragua. There are two countries that never signed. One was Syria and the other was
I
Nicaragua.
think you're right. Yep.
And the Nicaraguan government has said that they are going to sign it.
So we're in rare earth.
We're going to be right there with Syria. You know, why don't you follow the American lead, everybody? We are the leaders of the world, along with Syria. Okay, we should move on, I think.
Okay, this is an interesting one. This came from 9/16, which was last Saturday. Some 1.5 million still without power in the U.S. Southeast
Right.
after Irma.
This particular link will be found on Sunday, September 17th, even though the article was about the previous day. On Thursday morning, Florida Power and Light tweeted that all substations and 1,000 main power lines have been restored in Florida in the wake of Irma, and the process of allowing people to return to homes is underway in most areas outside of storm-ravaged lower Florida Keys. FPL is working to fix over 12,000 cases of damage, so it's still going to be a long time for a lot of these people to get power back.
Well, my sister's living in right now, temporarily, in Jacksonville,
Yes,
and she's staying in a hotel, and there is no power.
in the hotel.
Well, the hotel's generating their own,
Huh.
but the power is out in the neighborhood. Still, that was as of yesterday. Now, it might be an isolated area in Jacksonville. I don't know. You know, she doesn't know.
Mess. It's a mess.
As of this writing, there was 680,000 Georgia Power customers without power.
Right, and you know,
It
by
sort of
the
hit some of
way,
these places pretty hard.
as we talk about this, Hurricane Maria has struck Puerto Rico.
Yeah, deadly.
They are expecting to have the entire, all of the electricity on the entire island was
Is
shut
off.
off, and they're expecting that it's going to take months to get it back.
Yeah, I've
And
read that
we'll
same
talk
thing.
about that in next week's show. So
And
we're up.
again, as of this date of this thing, Highlands County, Florida, which is Lake Wales, right in the geographic center of the Florida Peninsula,
Mhm.
is 84% are without power.
Yeah.
As of this day.
Okay.
Well, let's move
we're
on
up
to Monday.
Monday, September 18th. We have a picture here.
Got a picture coming
This
up
article
here.
is from The Guardian.
I wonder what this picture is, huh?
It's people driving away from Florida. Okay.
Scientific models saved lives from Harvey and Irma. They can from climate change too.
The impacts of hurricanes Harvey and Irma were blunted because weather models accurately predicted the hurricane paths days in advance. Scientific models for climate change use the same core of physics as those for weather prediction.
So there is a difference between climate and weather, and what they're saying is the same, what would you call them, algorithms that you're using for weather can be used for climate.
They are being
And they're saying we should be,
Yeah.
and we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah, and you know, we should be paying attention to these things. And then, unfortunately, we've got a government which was paid by the fossil fuels industry to be put into office, and they want to. They're beholden to the fossil fuels industry, which is basically taken over. You know, we have a caucustocracy. It's called. It's
A caucustocracy?
yeah, it's a government by people who are inept, incompetent, and corrupt.
Okay.
Okay, our next item
is an interesting
from
article.
Clean Technica.
Urban trees protect buildings from high winds, cold temps, and air pollution.
Scientists have learned that urban trees, or even just a single tree, can help homes and office buildings save energy by blunting the wind's chilling power. Trees keep pedestrians more comfortable as they walk down the street, and they help lower building heating costs by cutting the wind. Even trees without leaves can slow the wind down.
Interesting article. It says
Yeah.
wind pressure is responsible for as much as a third of a building's energy consumption. And it doesn't matter, summer or winter.
Yeah.
Trees act as a filter, protecting us from high winds, turbulence, and particulate matter, such as smoke from wildfires.
Yes.
So trees are a
absolutely.
pretty good idea.
I think, yeah, whoever invented the trees should be praised.
I'm thinking of that article we had, I think it was last week, about the apartment house with all the trees in it.
Oh, yes.
That was
absolutely.
wonderful.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. It was nice. Our next item is from Clean Technica as well.
Okay. U.S. celebrates record 29% drop in utility scale solar costs, but a tariff cloud looms. This is interesting.
Yeah, it is. Last week, the U.S. Energy Department was gushing about its latest report on solar costs, with a record-breaking 29% decline in utility-scale solar leading the charge. Enjoy it while you can. A big tariff decision is coming down the pike as early as next week, and that could throw a what these people call a Hoover Dam's worth of cold water on the U.S. solar industry. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but that tariff worries me, and the reason to have the tariff, I don't think, is to protect American consumers or American solar industry or American solar manufacturers. It's I think driven by a desire to protect the fossil fuels industry.
You said exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. That's I mean,
Caucustocracy.
the larger power companies that generate their own power are frightened to death by solar.
Yeah.
Absolutely scared to death.
Yeah.
Because their whole business plan, their whole business model is breaking up.
See, this is the thing that really bothers me. They aren't threatened by solar, by wind, by any of these things if they change their business models.
Correct, but they can't.
But they don't have the
Misleading, yeah.
imagination to
Bingo.
do that. And since they aren't changing their business models, they are as stuck with obsolete technology as they would have been if they had been in the typewriter business in 1970 and said, we're not interested in computers, we're not interested in, or, been like Koifel and Esser selling slide rules, or the people who sold Burroughs, I think it was selling mechanical adding machines. Burroughs tried to go into the computer business, and
They didn't make
they
it.
didn't quite make it, but they could have, But these people are, this is a group of people who are paying the government to stay in business in an obsolete industry.
I don't know if it was this article or another one, but they put an analogy, and they said that the power industry is facing what happened to the phone industry with cell phones.
Yeah.
So, rooftop solar can do to the power industry what cell phones did to the phone industry.
AT&T invented the cell phone. They went to a market analyst company and said, how many of these are people going to want in the year 2000? Mm-hmm. The company said, well, they'll want, I forget the exact number, but it was like 950,000. And the actual number, market penetration, was 109 million. So they were off by a factor of like 120. And AT&T could have made a lot of money if they'd pushed this thing harder,
Yeah.
which they could have done if they'd understood
Yeah.
what was going on. But instead of
But they
that,
had their business model to deal with.
they had to deal with their business model. So, what did they do? They said, well, we can make more money if we are in the computer industry. So they tried going into the computer industry.
They didn't do too well.
They did not do well, and in order to get into the computer industry, they had to cut a deal with the U.S. government, which had allowed them to be a monopoly in the long lines.
Yeah.
And the result of that was they lost the long lines. They lost on the cell phone technology. They lost in the computer industry, and a lot of that was because they didn't work on their business model properly.
And they basically broke up.
They broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, September 19th.
Oh, we got a nice picture here coming up,
We do.
if I can find it.
There it is.
There it is. Bingo.
Bingo.
Come on.
Come on, let's go.
Here we go.
Yep,
L.A. paints its streets white to keep the city cooler.
yep.
And there they are, painting
yeah,
the
there
city
they are.
streets.
While politicians elsewhere waffle on climate change, officials in Los Angeles are tackling the problem head-on with a radical plan to lower the temperature of the entire city, which, by the way, will lower their air conditioning bills. Mayor Eric Garcetti intends to cut the average temperature of LA by 3 degrees Fahrenheit over the next 2 decades. As part of that effort, LA streets are going to be painted white.
It's very interesting because this paint was specifically developed to do exactly that. It was, I guess, originally done for airline runways,
Yes.
okay, to keep the planes from overheating while they're sitting in the runway.
Yeah.
And it reflects heat. It keeps the streets and parking lots 10 degrees cooler than black asphalt.
I didn't read what the pigment in that paint is, but if it's titanium dioxide, it could have the added benefit of reducing pollution, because titanium dioxide is a catalyst that turns hydrocarbons into carbon dioxide and
I think
water.
we've touched base on that
Yeah.
at one time. Yes,
We have.
yes.
But we should move on because we are so far behind, if you don't mind.
I will move on.
Clean Technica is next.
What Hurricane Harvey taught us about risk, climate, and resilience.
People know the climate is changing, but they don't know how serious it is. Over 70% of Americans agree that the climate is changing, but fewer than half believe that it will affect us personally. Why? Perhaps because when we imagine it, it's always far away.
Well,
And-
the article says the most valuable lesson may be how much we all have to lose when climate change and weather disasters strike.
Yeah.
That's what
And-
this article basically is about.
Right, and if you have had Lyme disease or know anybody who has had, if you're related to somebody, that was the effect of climate change, arguably. If you work for a ski industry and find it more difficult to get jobs in the winter, you're affected. If you work for the maple syrup industry, you're affected. If you work for, and you can go down a list.
Yeah, there's a big list of
It's a long
industries.
list. Yeah.
It's going to change life in Vermont very noticeably.
Yeah. Well, as I said, the temperature of the coldest night of the winter, which regulates all this stuff, has gone up by 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And people just don't put two and two together. And it's like we can plant peaches and pawpaws now in Brattleboro, and that's what people are doing.
It's coming.
It is. Okay.
We got enough time to cover.
You think so?
Yeah, so it's Tuesday. We got 13 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
Daily Mail told to admit its climate coverage was inaccurate.
We've
And
got
it may not have
we've
been.
got a graph for this.
Yeah,
we should put
get the
that up. This
picture
is
up.
from Ars Technica UK.
I was very confused by this article.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay. Early this year, the Mail on Sunday ran a hyperbolic article on climate change claiming that the world leaders had been duped by manipulated climate data. But the Mail on Sunday belongs to the Independent Press Standards Organization, which ruled that the article violated its code of ethics. The paper has been ordered to display the article's inaccuracies. Okay. What happened was you can see from that graph that from 1950, which is just a tiny bit to the right of center, to the present time, there has been a strong upwards trend.
Pretty steady.
Pretty steady. And various people who want to deny that climate change has been happening have been saying that between
There was a slowdown in global warming.
hiatus is the
Yeah.
word they use.
Yeah, right.
After 1998, and I've heard this as recently as only about 6 months ago.
I have heard of it too.
Yeah, and they say, well, it doesn't exist. It's on hiatus. Well, one of the organizations that has been pushing this idea, and whether they intended to push it or not, was the Mail on Sunday, and they ran
Which
an
is
article.
the same, it's not exactly the same paper as the Daily Mail.
Yes, it's a sister
paper.
organization, but they ran this article, and when people objected, it went to the Independent Press Standards Organization, what they call IPSO, And IPSO looked at this and said, you guys were lying. And, you're going to have to retract.
There is no hiatus.
There is no hiatus, no.
Yeah.
And you can see it from the graph there. That graph came from NOAA. But there are other things too. NASA said...
I don't see any hiatus in that graph.
NASA said we hit a peak in fact, you can see this on the graph if you look carefully. We hit a record smashing peak in 1998, and the hiatus was supposedly after 1998, but 2005 was another record year, and 2010 was another record year, and 2014 was another record year, as was 2015 and 2016, which are not on that graph, and both of them made new records. That line that you see there might actually be not quite steep enough. The hiatus is a myth, and it was created in order to confuse people, I think.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. Or just created by people who wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, September 20th, and we have an article from Clean Technica.
Oh, we got a picture too.
We do.
Scientists create real fuel with fake photosynthesis.
Yeah.
This is interesting because we talked about something like this last week.
We've talked about a number of these things.
It's a new trend.
Yeah.
There's several different things coming up doing the same thing in some different ways.
You mention often this thing about there's a lot of brilliant people out there coming up with new ideas.
And this is one of them, and it looks very interesting.
Yeah. This is from Clean Technica. A team of scientists from the Energy Department's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories has figured out a way to convert CO2 directly into ethanol and ethylene using a process powered by solar energy. The team made ethanol, skipping all the steps that involved planting corn, growing it, harvesting it, and processing it into biofuel. And that picture that we had,
Get it up again.
put it up again, is a picture of the process. You see the sun up there in the upper left, and the solar panels are in the upper center, and they power
It's electrolysis.
electrolysis.
It's like everybody did in high school chemistry lab.
Yeah.
But with a couple of differences.
Yeah. A couple
For
of
one thing, they're putting in CO2 in the bottom,
Yep.
and they're taking out these hydrocarbons at the top.
Right.
But the secret is in the electrodes.
In the
They're
electrodes.
very, very, how would you say it, special.
Very special. Well, this is just a matter of getting more. It's partly a matter of
Very
getting more
exotic.
efficiency out of the electrodes. Yeah, and it's
But they're turning CO2 almost directly into fuel.
yeah, and the fuel. But the interesting thing is this may be a bridge. It may not. It may be something you can develop. Maybe it isn't. But I think ultimately, I don't know how much of this we're actually going to need.
Well, last week we had a different version of this called the bionic leaf.
Yes,
This is not the same thing.
It's not the
but,
same thing.
It's working in the same direction.
right. Okay, should we move on?
Well, I will have a takeaway here.
Okay, go
Does
ahead.
this make sense? The new system could pair up with power plants and other industrial facilities to capture greenhouse gases at the source.
Yeah, there's another thing too to bear in mind here, and that is solar and wind power are intermittent, which is something that worries a lot of people. But what that means in the real world, part of what that means in the real world is sometimes they make more energy than you can use. And not that baseload plants don't. They do it.
They do it too.
Every night, guaranteed. But what this means is that you can use that energy that you don't have anything to use by just saying, oh, we've got a little extra, we'll turn this process on.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of options here.
There's a lot of options. Okay.
Basically, it's another form of storage.
Yes, it is. It's another form of storage.
And if you can store that extra energy, you're way ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
And some of that, particularly solar, comes online at the time when you want more energy,
Yes,
the heat of the day.
that's right. You store this, and it means when the sun goes down at the end of the day, you still want your air conditioner going. You can have something to keep it going. Okay,
This is an interesting article, too.
this is from businessgreen.com.
Renewables already at a tipping point across the globe.
Renewable energy is close to reaching a tipping point almost everywhere in the world. And, quote, nobody is going to make coal great again, end quote.
Say that again.
Nobody is going to make coal great again. BNEF, this is Bloomberg New Energy Finance, founder Michael Liebreich told a clean energy event in London. He said solar and onshore wind power had surpassed all orthodox expectations over the last 2 decades.
And it's going to continue doing that.
And it's going to continue doing that in all likelihood.
Yeah. I couldn't get much information on this because I ran into a paywall.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
From Business Green. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
paywall, they do that. I have been trying to test everything to find out if it went through a paywall.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten. Business Green does that.
I got the article,
You got it.
and to see more, click here.
Yes.
And when you click here, you can join
subscribe.
free for 2 weeks.
Well, this article has been all over the news in the last 48 hours, and there's been a lot of it. So I'll try to get something more on this. But basically, what he's saying is, and this is Michael Liebreich, and if you take an organization like the Energy Information Administration, which is in the United States, and for the government to do its planning, and you look at its projections, they are terrible when it comes to renewable.
We've talked
They're
about that.
just awful.
Yeah.
They're always wrong. They always show growth stopping in 18 months. And they show,
right.
and they show that it's flat after that. And so you have, if you just graph their projections on the same graph one after another, you see that every year they have this flat projection that is much higher than it was last year. And BNEF has been very good about its projections.
Well, Bloomberg generally does a good job.
They do a pretty good job, yeah. And another one that's pretty good that flies in the face of the U.S. Department of Energy, but it's used by a lot of organizations because they're right almost all the time, is Lazard, which provides the levelized cost of electricity. Really,
Yeah, we've
really
talked about
good.
them too.
And I know this stuff is working because they will say this is the levelized cost of electricity from solar, from wind, from whatever. And I go on the internet and I see these things day after day where I'm seeing power purchase agreements signed at a particular price.
Yeah, and they're going down.
They are going down. And BNEF's price projections and Lazard's prices
Bingo,
are
huh?
in accord with
Yeah.
what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
They work in relative to reality. The Energy Information Administration is, I don't know, they're like in another planet.
Yeah, it might have something to do with politics. I don't
Might
know.
have something to do with politics. I don't know. Anyway,
Well, we got our last article coming up here.
this is from
and it's
Common
also
Dreams,
Interesting.
and it has a really nice picture.
Yeah, that's a
Interesting
very
picture.
interesting article. Yeah,
Yes,
any
it is
idea
an
where those
interesting-
mountains are?
Well, that I think is Oregon. Is it Oregon?
I don't know. That's why I asked. Well, anyhow, it's a good article. This is long and with a lot of information. And it's called "Clean Energy is America's Next Frontier and Path to a Safer Climate."
A new report from the National Resources Defense Council shows that the United States can meet our short and long-term climate goals relying primarily on today's proven clean energy solutions. I want to repeat that. These are today's solutions. We don't have to develop new solutions. What we have to do is implement the solutions that we've already got. And this will save billions and billions and billions of dollars just in health benefits.
This article has suggestions on how to do it.
Yeah.
And it says, we can do it with a bold and rapid but achievable expansion of energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric vehicles, and decarbonized buildings, all supported by a modernized grid.
Right.
Duh.
Yeah. I think the National Resources Defense Council has got people who watch our show because we've been saying that for years. You think I'm kidding. Anyway, we are up at the end of our hour.
That's why I put us both back up here.
Oh, did you? We will say goodbye and hope that you have a good week and come back
Goodbye,
and see us soon.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Lilies in the by and by. I want to point out that the sun shines down its power to makes the wind blow